All right. I hope this is working. Test, 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 test. I think this is working. All right. Live again. Take two. This is crazy. Last week I had the same issue. I tried this work and the audio didn't work. It seems to be working on my end. At least it looks like it's coming through. The little audio buzzer thing or volume meter thing is going through back and forth. So test, test, test. Hopefully this is coming through. If you can hear me, if you can see me, if this is coming through loud and clear, let me know in the video chat window there to the side. Hey, Dan, how's it going? All right, Paul, you're there as well. Is this working? Can you hear me? Is it coming through loud and clear? If it is, just say like loud and clear. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thumbs up. Yeah, because I don't know if it came through or not, because like on my screen, when I'm doing these live video chats, I got the little audio meter there, and it's, you know, as I'm talking, it flicks back and forth to let me know that there's audio coming through. And when I started the live stream just later, like 60 seconds ago, I went through the proper setup, got the microphone plugged in like I always do and everything else, and it didn't work, right? There was nothing showing. It was like dead flat. So anyway, hopefully this is coming through loud and clear. Anyway, how's it going? Lee Hayward here with another Tea with Lee. All right, got myself a spot of tea. And I'm going to do a live video Q&A answering any questions and topics of discussion related to fitness and nutrition and fat loss and building muscle, any specific challenges you have with your workouts, your nutrition program, or whatever. Feel free to type those questions and topics of discussion into our chat window there, and I'll do the best that I can to help you out any way that I can over the course of our chat. And if I can't help you, then I'll try and point you in the right direction to somebody who can, right? So that's the way it is. So who do we have joining in? We have Dan joining in. We've got No Autographs joining in. We've got Paul joining in. We got John. Jose is joining in. Awesome. Good stuff, folks. Good stuff. Good stuff. Glad to have everyone joining in. And how are things going, right? How are things going with you and your workouts? Hopefully they're going well. Hopefully, depending on where you are in the world, you're able to actually get to the gym and work out. That would be nice. I know some of my friends, some of my coaching students are still in lockdown. In fact, one of the guys who's joining us right now, Paul, I know you're still in lockdown, which, man, I can only imagine how frustrating that must be. But I think most of the world, at least most people I talk to, seem to be coming back to normal to some degree, at least getting back to the gyms again, which is nice. And after I finish this video chat, that's where I'm actually going to be heading. I'm going to be heading to the gym for a Friday night pump up. I didn't get a chance to work out earlier today, but I did get out for a walk. That was one of my early morning exercise. I went for a great walk around Manuel's River today. It was gone for over an hour. It was absolutely beautiful. And that's my fasted cardio for this morning. I did that. And that's one of the things that I'm focusing on doing more of is early morning fasted cardio to just help to maximize fat burning. And I actually made a YouTube video that I'm going to be publishing this week or next week, discussing the pros and cons of fasted cardio versus fed cardio and when you can use both forms of cardio to maximize fat burning and when it's advantageous to use either fasted or fed. Right? Because it's not like one is good, bad, right, or wrong, or anything like that. It depends. It depends on you, your situation, your goals, what it is that you're training for, all that kind of stuff. And I made a detailed video breaking down the so-called pros and cons of both. Because I know some people out there say, hey, fasted cardio is the best. You know, you got to do fasted cardio to tap into burning body fat. Some people say fasted cardio doesn't do anything and it doesn't matter if you're fed or fasted or whatever. And it's not as cut and dried as that. It depends. It depends on the situation. And there is a time and a place for fasted cardio, and there's a time and a place for fed cardio. And I go into detail about that in that video that I'll be sharing next week. So that's something you can look forward to coming to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel. And as far as my own progress, I'm currently training for a bodybuilding competition, planning on making a comeback to the stage as a Masters over 40 competitor on June 26th. Fingers crossed, COVID permitting, lockdown, stay away, all that stuff. Hopefully we'll actually be able to go through with it. And that is the goal. And this morning when I did checked my body weight, I was actually at a new personal best low, a low that I haven't been at for quite some time. I actually weighed in at 183.6 this morning, which is the lowest I've been in a long time. So that's I was pretty pleased about that. And my goal now, I have to get down to 175 or under by June 26th. So that's the process. Now, that morning low for me this morning, that was depleted, fasted, everything else. So I mean, like, that was pretty low. So I got to duplicate that, another basically 9 pounds lighter. So I got about 9 pounds to shed between now and June 26th. So that is the goal. And I'm going to be sharing that journey and actually sharing a new video talking about some of the strategies that I've been implementing to help maximize fat burning while I'm getting ready for this bodybuilding show, because I'm taking a different approach this time around. Like back in the day when I was a competitive bodybuilder and doing it regularly, competing every year, I was into the all or nothing extreme approach. So I was like off-season bulking, then extreme pre-contest cutting, and there was no in between, right? It was stuffing or starving, like bulking or cutting, like on the extreme hardcore cutting diet or no diet at all, right? On the seafood diet, just seafood, eat food diet. And that extreme really led to some unhealthy habits, a big emotional roller coaster when it came to how I felt about myself and my weight and just my relationship with food, because I was going from like binging to starving. There was really no in between. And what I've come to adopt now over the last several years is a balanced, sustainable approach. And it focuses on the fundamentals of proper fat loss, cutting, if you will, but it builds in sustainability and flexibility there, where it doesn't have to be as strict and as rigid as what a lot of people focus on when they're trying to maximize fat burning. You want this sustainable approach, one that you can actually follow and enjoy and have it as a long-term lifestyle. Because this is something I'm going to tell you right now. If you are focusing on fat loss and your diet has a start and an end date, meaning that it's something you're just doing temporarily, like you say, hey, I'm just going to go on this crazy cutting diet, I'm going to fast, I'm going to cut out carbs, I'm going to do whatever, and just try and lose the weight as fast as possible and get, hopefully lose the weight and then be done with it. It ain't going to work. You're setting yourself up for failure. You're setting yourself up for a massive rebound, a yo-yo diet, and it's going to be all for naught. You have to be able to sustain it as part of your lifestyle. So if it's not something that you can do for the rest of your life, and it's not sustainable. And that's the problem with these extreme diet plans. Like people go on these, chicken broccoli diets and thinking, I'm going to lose all the weight and get ripped. Yeah, it works in the short term. But how do you feel after 6 months of eating nothing but chicken and broccoli? Like you're ready to jump off a bridge. It's not fun. You just go crazy. Like it drives you bonkers. And then eventually you get to the point where it's like, man, even though I'm losing weight, it's not worth the torture. It's not worth the deprivation. I mean, okay, what's the point of losing weight if I hate life, right? Like it's not worth the struggle, the suffering, and all that. You have to have that healthy balance. And that's where I focus on this whole good enough, but good enough consistently approach. Like you don't have to be the extreme pedal to the metal all the time. It just has to be good enough, but good enough consistently. We're gradually tipping the scale in favor of fat burning versus fat gaining. And that's it. That's all it is. It's a very delicate balance. And once you see the bigger picture and understand how this whole process works, it's like a weight lifted off your shoulder. It's like escaping the nutrition matrix, if you will, because there's so much, like there's all the green code on the screen, the nutrition matrix, all the BS, like, oh, should I cut carbs? Should I cut this? Should I cut that? And what's the best diet? What's the best split? Like, once you finally cut through all that shit, pardon the French, once you cut through all that and you see the truth, it's so much more enjoyable, and it's so simple. And again, it's just like a weight lifted off your shoulders. And this is something that I hear over and over again from guys who are going through the Muscle After 40 Blueprint coaching program, is like people who've been struggling for years, and then they come on board with the program. And then like after several months going through this, they're like, why didn't somebody tell me this like years ago, before I wasted all that time with all these crazy fad diets and torturing myself and yo-yo dieting and up and down and starving and stuffing and not being able to sustain it and hating every moment of it, feeling miserable. Like once you see the truth and you actually not just know it intellectually, but you know it internally because you're living it, you're seeing it, and you're getting the results for yourself, man, it's a game changer. It truly is. And again, that's what we're going through now with the whole Muscle After 40 Blueprint. And I see several of the guys who are part of the program joining in for the video chat. So again, nice to see you joining in, guys. All right, so I'll be keeping you up to date as to how things go with my personal fat loss journey as I work towards that. And even if the worst case scenario happens and we hit another COVID lockdown and the show doesn't go ahead, it's not a loss, because I'm doing this as a personal goal. Like the actually stepping on stage and competing again, that's going to be like a bonus, if you will. But I'm doing this for my own personal satisfaction, because I just want to see how lean I can get, and while actually enjoying the process, and just to take some new pictures for my website, and basically to just show that it can be done. You can actually have a sustainable and enjoyable process and get lean and not feel like you're ready to take a long walk off a short bridge, feeling miserable the entire time. All right, so I'm going to jump into our video chat here. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to type them into our chat, and I'll do the best I can to help you out. Let's see. Paul is joining in. Paul's one of the guys, part of the Muscle After 40 Blueprint, and myself and Paul, we actually did a video not too long ago sharing his fitness and fat loss journey of how he started at age 62 and now at age 66, soon to be 67, is in the best shape of his life. I mean, like it truly goes to show that age is just a number. It's never too late to start. Paul started as a beginner from scratch at 62. Now, I don't mean like he was on and off again and got out of shape and then got back in shape at 62. No, like he started as bare bones beginner, didn't know his way around the gym, never been in a gym at all at age 62. Started from ground zero, and now he's in the best shape of his life at 66, which is amazing. And tomorrow he's going to be competing in a body transformation competition. And I actually did a shout out for you, Paul, up on my Facebook page. So hopefully you've seen that. And I'm rooting for you, man. I'm so pleased to see your progress, and I'm looking forward to seeing how things happen now tomorrow with the transformation challenge. All right, we got John's joining in. We've got Dan's joining in. Jose's joining in. Let's see who else we got there. Paul saying, any advice about tomorrow? The best advice I can give you, Paul, is I already sent you the the bodybuilding competition PDF guide. Like, follow that. Like review the last few pages about how to prep, how to pump up, and all that kind of stuff. That's the last couple chapters in that book really go into the fine tuning of how you peak for a photo shoot or a competition or anything along those lines. But the biggest thing to focus on is just relax and enjoy the experience. Like, seriously, don't overstress it. Don't overthink it. Just enjoy the moment. That's the best thing I can give you as far as advice. When it comes to pumping up, right, I'll give you a few little pump up tips, if you will. One, pump up the so-called show-off muscles. So your chest, your biceps, your shoulders. You can do some work for the back, but don't pump up your legs. Don't pump up your abdominals or anything like that. Those muscles tend to look the best when they are relaxed, meaning that they're not pumped. So no squats or crunches or anything like that while you're pumping up. Just pump up the show-off muscles. So some push-ups, some curls, shoulder presses or lateral raises. If you want to do some rows, that's fine. Resistance bands or dumbbells, just light high reps, get a light pump going, and that'll help to make you look bigger, right? Make you look bigger and better in those in the show-off muscles, if you will, of the upper body. And man, just enjoy it. Again, read over that PDF I sent you. It's the PDF program, your first bodybuilding competition, which is one that I wrote several years ago. I actually had it as a self-published hard copy book several years back, but then I re-released it, added a lot of new information to it, and I relaunched it again back in 2017 it was. So, I mean, still very current for today's standards in terms of like what's involved with bodybuilding and physique competition. And it's all geared towards how do you transition from so-called off-season bulking to pre-contest cutting right up until the day of the show and what you do. And that would apply for bodybuilding competitions or photo shoots or anything where you want to look your best. So again, Paul's been following along with that, as well as our coaching program. And again, I'm looking forward to seeing your progress tomorrow. We have John joining in. He's saying, are some muscle groups easier to progressive overload like pull downs for me is harder to progressive overload than dumbbell rows? Great question. Great question. Before I get into that question, I'm going to have myself a sip of tea. Green tea with Lee's. And just for those of you who are new to the video chat and you want to know how this works, tea with Lee means I'm having a cup of green tea while I do this video chat with you. And when the tea is gone, the chat is over. So this is like my timer, right? Like some people use a stopwatch or a timer or maybe an hourglass clock or something like that. I use my green tea. So when the tea is gone, the chat is over. Usually takes me about an hour, but give or take. All right, John, you're asking about progressive overload. You're absolutely right. Certain exercises are easier to make gains in than others. Generally speaking, the bigger compound lifts are easier to gain strength in. For example, there's a big difference between adding 5 pounds to a 200-pound deadlift versus adding 5 pounds to a 20-pound dumbbell curl. Percentage-wise, there's a huge difference. Like, 5 pounds to a 200-pound deadlift, right? It's very small, 2.5%. 5 pounds to a 20-pound dumbbell curl, that's 25%. Like it's literally a 10x jump in weight percentage-wise. So that's why you're not going to make the same gains. Like a lot of people say, well, try to add 5 pounds to the weight each week. Well, that makes sense in certain exercises, but some are physically going to be impossible to do that because it's just too big of a jump. What I recommend is focus on, one, lifting with proper form and getting that mind-muscle connection where you're actually feeling the muscles work, contract with each repetition. And when it starts to feel easy, or when you're starting to add more repetitions and it just, that you can add more weight, then add more weight. But you don't have to force it. You really don't. Like a lot of people try and force it. And when you try and force weight, meaning you're just like, I got to add weight every week. I got to add weight every week. Got to train with progressive overload. Got to do it. What ends up happening is sometimes you start to sacrifice form for weight. So even though the weight on the barbell or on the machines or the exercise, whatever, is going up, the form is probably going down, or maybe you're using a bit more momentum, a bit more explosiveness. Maybe you're shortening up the range of motion. Like how often do you see guys in there squatting 3-4 plates aside and they're doing these little quarter reps, like little short mini reps, or they're doing bench presses and the barbell's not even coming close to touching their chest. Like, don't shorten up the range of motion for the sake of more weight, and don't swing and cheat and use crappy form for the sake of more weight. Use proper form. Like, I don't care how light you have to go. Start off ridiculously light if you have to. I mean, heck, the empty barbell is fine. Start there. And then once you get to the point where you know that you can add more weight, then add more weight. Like, you don't have to force it. And this is actually the smartest way to train, because forcing the weight is actually going to speed up your risk of injury. And I'm speaking from experience because I've had my share of injuries over the years, and it always come from trying to do too much too soon. Like, very rare for someone to train smart and be patient and use proper form and lift within their means and all that kind of stuff and get injured. It virtually is impossible. I'm not saying it is impossible, because of course there's going to be exceptions to the rule. There always is. But it's highly unlikely, right? You got the same likelihood of getting struck by lightning. You know what I mean? Like, it's unlikely for someone to train with proper form, lift within their means, and get hurt doing so. It's usually only when you're trying to do too much too soon, ego lift, push the limits. That's when, that's when things go wrong, and that's when you get injured. So don't be in such a big rush to increase the weight. Let your body grow, not force it to grow. Now, I'll say that again. Let your body grow. Like, focus on the habits, focus on the consistency with your workouts, focus on the consistency with your nutrition, the consistency with your lifestyle choices, meaning getting to bed at a decent hour, getting up at a decent hour, drinking adequate water, and getting, healthy food and nourishing yourself, and just all that good stuff, minimizing alcohol consumption, all that kind of stuff. Focus on that, and then let the process happen. You don't need to force it. It will happen as long as you are consistent. And I mean, yeah, you may go through phases where it seems like you're doing everything right and you might hit a short-term plateau. But if that really does happen, there's always some advanced strategies you can work around it. Like, you can change things up to work around those temporary plateaus. But bottom line, don't try and force anything, right? Forcing never leads to good results. Right? It's always best to just encourage and to let. It's like trying to grow a garden. Like, you can't force a garden to grow. You can only let it grow. You can nurture it and let it grow. You can't physically force it. Right? When you force stuff, things don't go the way you want. Like if you're trying to open a lock and you put the key in the lock and it's stuck, you don't try and force it open because you're going to break the lock or break off the key. You jiggle it. You jiggle it. You just encourage it, right? Just same with your workouts, right? Don't try and force yourself to make progress. You just jiggle it along, encourage it, and let the process happen. And once you grasp that, it takes the stress out of this. It really does. It makes this an enjoyable process, and you'll be surprised at how fast you can actually grow when you take that stress out of there, meaning that you take that pressure off yourself to always be trying to lift more and lift more and lift more, and just let yourself grow instead of trying to force it. But again, getting back to the specifics of your question, the bigger compound exercises tend to be the easiest ones to see that progressive overload, just because the percentage-wise it's so much smaller. And then the isolation exercises and the lighter weight exercises, obviously it's going to be a lot harder. So in those situations, you have a couple options when it comes to increasing the weight. One, you can focus on working within a repetition range. So let's just say you're doing dumbbell curls, or what was your answer there? You said pull downs. Okay, well, let's use pull downs as an example. You said pull downs versus rows. If you're stuck with the pull down and you find like you can't increase to the next weight on the weight stack, right? So instead of trying to push yourself too heavy and use crappy form, work within a rep range. So let's just say your target is 3 sets of 10. I'm just using this as an example. Your target rep range may be different, but let's just work with me. You're doing 3 sets of 10. And you complete 3 sets of 10 with good form with 100 pounds. And you say, okay, I want to try to go heavier. So you go 110 pounds and you're like, man, I can't get 10 reps on this. It's just too heavy. Instead of that, focus on doing 3 sets of 11 reps and then 3 sets of 12 reps. And then like build yourself up. Maybe get up to 3 sets of 15 reps. Once you're at 15 reps, then you can go up to the next heaviest weight on the weight stack and drop the reps back down to 10 and then work within that range. And this is a great way to build up smaller exercises that you're struggling to increase the weight in. So work within a repetition range. Start at 10, build yourself up to say 15. Once you hit 15, drop the reps back down, increase the weight, and then start that process all over again. And that's an easier way to go about it. Another option you have is looking for fractional weight plates. Now, this is something you can order like off Amazon if you go search for them, and there's different websites that carry them. But fractional weight plates are basically mini plates. So instead of like in the typical gyms, at least here in North America, the smallest weight plate you're going to find is a 2.5 pound plate. I'm not sure what it is over in Europe. I've never been to Europe myself, so I can't comment on there. But in North America, standard gym, 2.5 pound plate's the smallest plate you have. That's a big jump because if you put obviously 2.5 pound plates on the bar, that's 5 pound jump. That may be too big in some cases. So you can get the fractional weight plates, and these can be very small, sometimes a fraction of a pound, sometimes half a pound or whatever. But let's just say you had the half pound plates. You put one on each side, you can literally increase the weight by 1 pound. And if you can do an exercise, let's just say you're doing pull downs with 100 pounds, there's a high likelihood that you'll probably be able to do 101 pounds and still be able to maintain the same form, right? Get used to that. And then build it up to 102 pounds. And then build it up to 103. I mean, small incremental weight progress versus trying to make this big, massive jump of 5 to 10 pounds. So that's another option that you have. And if your gym doesn't have those fractional plates, then you can order them yourself. They're not that expensive, right? I mean, like pound for pound, it is more expensive than weight plates, but you don't need a lot of them, right? Because you only need to have enough to match the smallest set of weight plates at your gym. So again, let's just say the smallest plates are, you can make 5 pound increments. Well, you only need to go up to as much as 4 pounds of fractional weight plates, and then you're covered. Because once you've maxed out your 4 pounds of fractional weight plates, then you can put the 5 pound at the gym on and then work it from there. So that's an option that you have, is look up those. And there's a bunch of different brands available. I don't have any particular favorite brand because, quite honestly, weight is weight. Like if 5 pounds of weight from brand A is now not going to be any different than 5 pounds of weight from brand B. So, I mean, you don't need to get hung up in, oh, is this a name brand weight or is this a knockoff weight or whatever? Like, who cares? Weight is weight. So that's something you can look for. Just do an Amazon search for it. All right, moving on. First revenge. He says, I'm almost finished cutting for summer. What do you do after finished? Do I re-add calories that I cut out? first off, I'm not a big fan of bulking or cutting. I'm more of a fan of just body recomposition. So again, I don't know what your cutting diet consists of, but don't purposely bulk. I'm going to tell you right now, do not purposely bulk, because purposely bulking is usually just a nice way of saying purposely getting fat. If I could go back in time and talk to the young Lee Hayward and knock some sense into his stubborn brain, I would have told him to not try and bulk up as a teenager. That was one of the biggest mistakes I made, is trying to bulk up. The other one was lifting too heavy too soon, which I already covered in the previous comment. Bulking up, like trying to force yourself to gain weight, is a waste of time. I mean, yes, in the short term, you do gain weight. And in the short term, you do feel bigger and you fill up your glycogen stores and you're like, whoa, this is awesome, right? And you jump on the scale and you put on 5 pounds of weight. Mostly it's just water weight and bloat. And you continue doing that. You continue eating this unnecessary calorie surplus. And the weight keeps going up. But it's not lean weight. It's just excess body fat. And the problem is you put on all this weight, you probably put on a little bit of muscle and you put on a lot of body fat. And then, yeah, you look bigger, you look fuller and everything else. And probably your lifts are going to go up as well. Like your big compound lifts, like your bench, your squat, and all that's going to go up, because simply having more mass on your frame will make you stronger. Like, especially like you think of like a squat. If you got a big old gut, that helps you squat, because that's a big solid base that you can use. And you see like some of the biggest, strongest squatters are guys with big bellies, because they can actually use that belly and rebound it off their thighs to help them drive up out of the bottom of a squat. Like it's pretty rare to see someone who's very slim waisted and a strong squatter. Now, of course, there's some exceptions to the rules. I mean, but generally speaking, you look at like world record squatters, they got big bellies because they use that sheer mass to help them rebound out of the squat. And then, of course, when you got that big belly and then you have a weightlifting belt, securing it, then you just got this big mass of, it's just like a big pillar, right? A big foundation that you can use to help stabilize your torso. Even though a lot of it's body fat, it does actually make you stronger. So you'll see your lifts in the gym go up. And that's why, like, look at world's strongest man competitors or, top level power lifters or whatever. They all got big bellies. And that big belly actually helps make them stronger. Like, they're not just doing it for shits and giggles. There's actually a reason to it, right? They purposely want to gain weight just to maximize their strength. Now, if that's your goal, just big and strong at all costs, and yeah, okay, bulking makes sense in that situation. But if your goal is to have a lean, aesthetic, athletic looking physique, which I'm assuming it is, seeing you're cutting, then don't bulk. It's a waste of time, because the weight you gain is just going to set you back, and then you're going to have to diet that off next time you decide to cut. And then you'll end up probably sacrificing a lot of the lean mass you gained while you were bulking when you go through the extreme cutting. I mean, I did it myself for years, right? I went through that yo-yo up and down, up and down, up and down. Now I take a totally different approach and focus on staying lean. And if your goal is to build after you've reached your ideal body fat, focus on maintenance calories. Like, seriously, maintenance calories or a very slight surplus. And I actually recommend people to shoot for maintenance calories, because very often we underestimate how much we actually eat. So if you strive for maintenance, you'll probably actually end up in a slight surplus, just based on the way things are. Like, a lot of times people underestimate, like, oh, that's a cup of rice, and meanwhile the cup is jammed packed. Or you go back for second helpings, or you sneak a little spoonful of something here and there and you don't add it up, whatever. So strive for maintenance. You'll probably actually end up in a slight surplus, and that's plenty. Like, literally, like a couple 100 calorie surplus is more than enough to build muscle. You don't need any more than that. And let your body grow, not trying to force it to grow. So, I mean, that's my advice. And when you make changes, whether it's to gain muscle or to lose body fat, make small changes. The body responds well to small, and small is sustainable. Drastic isn't good. When you do drastic changes, it just throws everything off, and it's not sustainable. That's why so many people, they go on these crazy crash diets, and yeah, they lose weight in the short term, but they can't sustain it, and they gain it all back in the long term, right? You see someone else, yeah, I went on, this crazy keto, low carb, fasting, whatever, starved myself, and I lost 30 pounds. And then you see them 6 months or a year later, and they got 35 or 40 pounds put back on. Like, what was the point of dropping the 30 pounds to begin with if you're only going to put 30 or 40 back on? you would have been better off staying where you were. Like in the long run, ultimately, you would have been. So you need to think of sustainability. That's the secret to long-term success, is sustainability. And that's what I really preach and share in the whole Muscle After 40 blueprint, is how you make a sustainable fitness and fat loss transformation. All right, we have Dario joining in. He says, I lost over 6 kilograms of body fat over the past 2 months. Way to go. Dario actually went through the Lose Your Gut Challenge program a couple months ago, and obviously it's working for you. Great job there. He says, now I'm struggling to make progress. I've never been overweight, but I'd still like to get leaner. Any advice? Yeah, good. I can totally understand where you're coming from. What you've went through, like through the Lose Your Gut Challenge, you've kind of mastered the basics, the fundamentals of nutrition and exercise. Like that's the stuff that we covered within the 5-day Lose Your Gut Challenge. And if you've never done the 5-day Lose Your Gut Challenge, then you're missing out, because that is, I'll explain how that works. First off, I don't pretend or even remotely want to give you the idea that you're going to literally lose your gut in 5 days. All right. The 5-day Lose Your Gut Challenge, it's a 5-day coaching program. It's a virtual coaching program where we're going to do 5 days of intensive coaching to give you the tools, skills, and strategies that you can then implement to lose your gut, as in the case of Dario, over the past couple months, lost 6 kilos, which is great. Now he's struggling. Once you've hit those plateaus, then that's when you really need to like look under the hood, so to speak, and see, okay, what are you doing and where can we optimize the process? And for that, I mean, I really need to discuss it with you personally, because that's not just a one size fits all cut and dried answer, right? I mean, I really need to see like, okay, what is it you're doing as far as your nutrition? What is it you're doing as far as your exercise? What is it you're doing in your lifestyle? And where can we make some little tweaks? You know, where can we optimize a few little things? Where can we cut back a little bit here? Where can we add a little bit here and optimize the process? And that's what it is. It's just like fine tuning it. It's tweaking it. It's debugging it, if you will, because obviously you've got a good plan in place, right? You're losing weight. You're seeing progress, right? You're making results. But now we need to go in there and just fine tune it and optimize what you're currently doing. So if you would like some help with that, send me an email, right? My email address, I have it in the description of this video. It's leah@leehayward.com. Or you can shoot me a message on Facebook or whatever. I mean, I'm active on Facebook on a regular basis, so message me there, and we can have a chat and discuss a realistic action plan that works for you. We got Sean joining in. How's it going? He's saying, do you think pull-ups are superior to pull-downs for hypertrophy? It depends. I always come back to the it depends answer. And I know some people don't like it when I say that, because everybody wants the black and white, right? Everybody wants it just yes or it's no. There's no such thing as a maybe, right? It's always got to be this or that. There's no such thing as an in-between. And a lot of people aren't strong enough to do pull-ups. So if you're not strong enough to do pull-ups, then is it superior to pull-downs? No, because you can't even do them, right? So in that situation, a pull-down is far superior. Maybe you're working around an injury and you physically can't do a pull-up for whatever reason, or maybe there's some mobility issues and you can't do it. Then the pull-down would be superior. Now, assuming you have the ability to do pull-ups and the ability to do pull-downs, then is the pull-up better? Technically, yes, because it's a harder exercise. If you rep out to failure with pull-ups versus pull-downs, you're going to feel a deeper level of muscular fatigue, and it's what's known as neuromuscular activation. Neuromuscular activation just means the muscles are more active. And anytime you do an exercise where you're moving your entire body through space, you are at the most active environment. It's like three-dimensional activation versus just moving your limbs. That's why a pull-down, or sorry, a pull-up is harder than a pull-down, even if the weight was accounted for. That's why a squat is harder than a leg press, because you're moving your entire body through space. That's why a push-up is harder than a bench press, especially if you had a weighted push-up and you accounted for the resistance. Or dips are harder than bench presses, especially if you account for the weight, right? You have to factor in the weight, of course. Like if you're doing a 300-pound bench press and you're only 200 pounds and you're doing push-ups, well, obviously the push-ups are going to be easier because they're lighter. But if you've equaled out the weight, either through resistance or weighted backpacks or whatever, but you were to able to have equal weight, it would actually be harder to do the body weight version of the exercise because there's more neuromuscular activation. The body is more active when it's actually physically moving through space versus when you're just moving your limbs. So that's why you get more muscle activation from those exercises. But at the same time, it depends, because not everybody can do them due to strength limitations, or maybe there's mobility issues, or there's injuries that you have to work around or whatever, and you have to do the other variations instead. So it depends. All right, Jose is joining in. Lee, after 6 months without missing a workout, I had to stop for 3 weeks because of an injury. I just come back and I'm following your husband and wife full body workout. So far, so good. Awesome. Glad to hear it. And, well, not glad to hear you had an injury, but glad to hear you're following the workout and that you're enjoying it. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because if any of you watching this right now, if you are looking for a workout plan to get back in shape, you know, the idea behind that video series that I put together with my wife, Patricia, it's a husband and wife get back in shape workout routine. And this is the program that we followed, and we are still following after the whole COVID lockdown. So, like, we went through a second lockdown, everything was shut down, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, our gym routine went out the window. And this was the program we followed to get back in shape after COVID. So if you're in that situation, whether it's after lockdown or it's just after a layoff or for whatever reason, or you're just starting again, that would be a great program to follow. And it's a 3-day per week total body workout, and each workout is different. So workout 1 focuses primarily on compound exercises. Workout 2 focuses primarily on isolation exercises. And then workout 3 is a filling in the gap workout, where we do movement patterns and exercises that didn't get covered in the previous 2 workouts. So over the course of the week, you get a lot of variety built in there, but it's still total body. And that's what I like to do, total body. Like, that's my go-to training plan. Like, over the last couple of years, I've mixed it up here and there, but I keep going back to total body because I just enjoy the frequency, and I enjoy not destroying a single body part in a workout. Like the old school days of chest day, back day, leg day, and then feeling painfully sore and exhausted the day after. I'm not a fan of that. I'd rather do a little bit for a lot and feel good the next day, so that I'm not painfully sore in any one area, or not feeling beat up to the point where I can't actually go and do normal things the next day. Like, if you go into the gym and you do 20 or 30 sets for legs, like, you're not going to be able to go for a walk the next day, or, you know, your legs are just going to be shot, and you're not going to have any strength or energy in them. But if you do a little bit of exercise frequently, like, you stimulate the muscle and you allow it to recover and grow, and it just speeds up the whole process, and you don't feel painfully sore the next day. And that's why I'm a big fan of the total body workouts, because I find that you get a little bit more frequently versus a lot infrequently. And I'm a big fan of that, and I find that it works really well. Now, with that being said, does it mean that you can't make gains with a body part split routine and having your chest day, leg day, back day, etc.? No, of course you can. You can make gains with anything you do consistently, but it really comes down to personal preference and what works the best for you at this stage of the game and your situation. All right, we've got Moses joining in, and thank you for the support, my friend. Well, most appreciated. He says, I want to support your channel, and I've got a question. He says, what are your thoughts on doing a push-pull legs and abs as a new program? I might need your guidance because my work scheduling is throwing me off, and I can't do body part splits anymore. Well, this is a great follow-up question to what I was just talking about. There's nothing wrong with push-pull legs, but the only thing is if you have a push-pull leg program, ideally, you'll have to be in the gym 3 days a week minimum, right? You want to be able to do that. And if you have any issues with scheduling workouts where you may miss a workout here and there, it can kind of throw off the routine. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to make any progress at all, but it just means that it's going to delay the process of hitting your muscle groups. So if you had to miss a couple days, like, you know, it could be a couple weeks before you hit all your muscle groups. And that's one of the drawbacks of the body part split routine, or in this case, push-pull legs, which is just like a more condensed version of a body part split, because you're just pairing up similar muscle groups. The problem with that is you have to be consistent, and you have to have a consistent schedule, because if not, then the workouts get too far spaced out. And this is a common issue. So you see guys, like, let's just say you have, you know, you have a 6-day split, for example, and then you end up missing a few days. Well, it takes you 2 weeks to complete your 6-day split. and so you're not hitting the same muscle group for a couple weeks. And like, that's too big of a gap. ideally, like the minimum you want to be hitting a muscle group is once a week, and ideally even more frequently than that. And that's why, again, I like the idea of the total body workouts, because you get that frequency in there. And even if I miss a day, it's no big deal, because when I go to the gym again, I'm going to be hitting those muscle groups. So nothing gets neglected for long. I mean, heck, if you can only work out once a week, you still hit all your major muscle groups that week because you did them in the total body. If you work out twice a week, well, at least you hit all your major muscle groups twice that week. And if you're doing it 3 times, well, then 3 times a week. Versus the body part split, if you miss a day here and there, it just prolongs the gap, if you will, between the workouts. Now, you have to look at it from all sides and see, like, what's the best for you in your situation. I mean, when I was, before my son was born and I had all the time in the world to go to the gym, and I mean, I was, the everyday gym guy. Like, I'd probably take a day off here and there, but I mean, I didn't plan off days. I basically worked out every single day. That was my schedule, if you will. And then if for whatever reason I was extra tired or I was extra busy, then I took a day off. But I was pretty much in the gym like 6-7 days a week. And I was doing the body part split: chest day, back day, arm day, shoulder day, leg day. And that worked well, because then I'm doing something different every day. And if you have every day to go to the gym and work out, and time is not an issue, and you love to be in the gym, then a body part split may be great. But if time is of the essence, and you're a busy man, you're a busy father, you're working full time, you got a family to raise, you got chores and responsibilities and this and that, and you just can't be spending 2-3 hours a day in the gym, then you want to be efficient. And that's where the total body workouts, such as that husband and wife get back in shape workout routine, really fits into a schedule nicely, because again, you can be in the gym 3 days a week, 1 hour workout, 3 hours a week total, and basically hit everything and get it done. And even if you did miss a day here and there, it's not going to throw off the whole schedule, because you're still hitting all your major muscle groups frequently. So that's why I'm a big fan of the shorter, more frequent workouts versus the body part split. So that's what I would recommend. If you're looking for a plan to get yourself back on schedule again, go to my main YouTube channel, and it's right there in the top page. It's in the lead. The latest playlist that I added is the husband and wife get back in shape workout routine. And again, thank you for your support. Much appreciated. Frederick is saying, will Coenzyme Q10 help my energy in the gym? I personally supplement with Coenzyme Q10, and I do so for the health benefits of it, but it's not a supplement that you're going to feel. It's like taking your vitamins. Like, unless you have a vitamin deficiency, you're not going to feel the vitamins. Same with taking your protein. Unless you have a deficiency, you're not going to feel the protein. Like, nobody's going to eat a piece of chicken and say, "Oh, I feel strong from that chicken." Like, or you're not going to drink a protein shake and like start to burst out of your shirt and feel like the Hulk. No. Whereas if you take a pre-workout, something that's got boat-loaded with caffeine and stimulants, you're going to have energy then, you're going to feel it. But vitamins and enzymes and stuff like that, like, you don't feel it. So is it going to give you energy in the gym? Indirectly, it may, because it's helping with, just the body to be healthier and all the metabolic processes that go on inside the body, and that the Coenzyme Q10 help with. But you're not actually going to feel it. Like, you wouldn't take it like a pre-workout and expect to get a buzz off your Coenzyme Q10 and get jacked before you go to the gym, right? It's not like caffeine or a stimulant or anything like that. So, you're not going to feel it if that's the answer you're looking for. All right, who else we got there? Oops, I skipped some. This happens to me every now and then. I'm scrolling through with my trackpad here on my computer, and as soon as I touch it, it jumps and I lose my place on the chat there. All right, the Coenzyme Q10 question. Some people are wishing me good luck with the competition coming up. I do appreciate it, and I'm going to be totally transparent. Like, I don't have any pipe dreams of winning the competition, right? I just know that up front. I mean, and even as I'm going through the process of cutting, contest prep, or whatever you want to call it, I can tell I'm not the same as I was 10 years ago. Like, the last time I competed was 10 years ago. And even then, 10 years ago, I could start to see the decline. And that was part of the reason why I took a break after competition. Like, my best shape ever was in 2010. That was when I did the Atlantic Canadian Championships, 2010. I got my best shape ever. And then the next year I did the Newfoundland Provincials, 2011. And I had some injuries, some other injuries afterwards when I did that competition. And I could tell, like, I wasn't as sharp. I wasn't as full. Like, I could feel my body was starting to decline a bit. And then I said, you know what, I got to take a break from this. And I ended up taking a 10-year break, right? So quite a long break. But now as I'm going through the process, 10 years older, right? Father time is catching up. Like, I can tell that I'm not going to be at my best ever shape. Right, like the skin is not as tight as it once was. Right, there's that. Like I've got some loose skin around the lower belly area. That's, even if the skin is thin, it's just still the saggy skin's there. The muscle fullness isn't the same. I've got a few injuries, so when I pose, like certain things don't look the same as they once did. Like, so I can tell. Like I'm gonna be like there's some chinks in the armor, so to speak. That's what I'm saying. There's some chinks in the armor, but I'm going through it anyway. Right, just for personal satisfaction. And to kind of show, like, who cares? Like, I mean, even if I'm not at my all-time best, I mean, I can still be good enough and go through the process and enjoy it. But I mean, I don't have any pipe dreams of like beating the young guys who are at their peak and all that stuff. I mean, I know that's not going to be an issue. I mean, hopefully I'll hold my own against the other Masters competitors, but there's some pretty darn good Masters competitors that are going to be competing as well. But again, I'm just going through it. Like, it's a personal goal of mine just to get on that stage and compete. And where I place all depends on who else shows up. And quite honestly, I really don't care as long as I give it my all, look my best, and I feel comfortable with it. And that's something, like, there's a lot of power in that. Because I remember, like, when I was in my best shape for the 2010 Atlantics, I gave it my all. Like, I did everything that I could. I mean, I started dieting 6 months out. I mean, I did everything I could. I was consistent. I never had any problems with the prep. Like, everything went great. And I was very pleased. And I got my best shape ever. And I got my ass kicked, right? I got my ass kicked because it was a regional competition. And the lineup was competitive. Like, everybody who was in that competition and everybody who placed ahead of me was like an overall provincial champion at one point or another. So it was almost like competing at the nationals from that point of view, because every single person who was in that lineup had won a provincial championship at one point or another, including myself, right? And I placed 6th out of 10 in that competition. I was really hoping to crack the top 5, but and make the evening finals, but I didn't. I didn't crack the top 5, even though I was at my best shape. But I was happy because I was in my best shape. Now, to compare that, I remember a few years before that, I believe it was in the 2008 Newfoundland Provincials, I actually weighed in as a heavyweight. My goal was to make light heavyweight, and I didn't even make weight. I was too heavy. I should have dieted. I needed another month of dieting, easy, but I competed anyway. And I ended up winning the heavyweight class because even though I wasn't at my best, the competition was so weak. Now, and again, not trying to take anything away from the other competitors or nothing, but they were novice competitors, and I was a more seasoned competitor, and I won that division quite easily, even though I wasn't at my best. And I didn't feel the same personal satisfaction winning that class because I wasn't at my best. Whereas in 2010, when I got my ass kicked, but I was at my best, like, I would rather get beat and get my ass kicked, but know that I gave it my all, versus win just because the competition's not that competitive, right? If that makes sense, right? Like, it's the personal competition. Like, as long as I do my best, then I can walk away feeling satisfied, regardless if I place dead last or first or anywhere in the middle. It doesn't matter. But if I even win, but I know that I didn't give it my all or I didn't show up at my best, then I almost feel guilty because, like, I had more in me to give. And that's not a nice feeling. That's almost like a feeling of regret. And I want to just know that, I did the best I could. And as long as I feel that way, then I really don't care the way the placings turn out. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter because it all depends on who's the best that day. But that's my mindset when it comes to competition. I mean, I'm a competitive person. I love to compete, but it's always personal competition first, and then the public competition. Like, that's just like a roll of the dice because it all depends on who else shows up. But as long as I hit my own personal goals and my own personal best, then I'm satisfied regardless of the outcome. All right, so that's a side rant for you. All right, Jose saying, thanks for the workouts. Have you tried or heard of the inertia wave ropes for endurance and cardio? Nope, unless you mean like the battle ropes. I'm familiar with battle ropes and I've used them and they are an amazing training tool. As simple as it is, it's very effective, but I've never heard of an inertia wave rope, unless that's just a fancy term for battle ropes, but I'll have to Google it after the chat. Frederick's saying, how much caffeine would be good? 200 milligrams? Question mark. I'm going to give you my classic answer. It depends. It depends on how sensitive you are to caffeine. It depends on how big you are. 200 milligrams is kind of like your standard dose, if you will. That's like, if you're looking at a small, medium, large, like 200 milligrams is the medium, right? 100 milligrams would be small. 300 would be large or extra large, if you will. 200 is kind of like that sweet spot. So in my case, when I'm working out or whatever, I usually have a cup of coffee and, you know, again, I don't know the exact measurement of caffeine in a coffee because it's hard to measure it exactly, but approximately 1 to 200 milligrams of caffeine in a cup of coffee. That's generally what's in there. If I take a pre-workout, which I don't very often do, but if I do, I usually use half a scoop, which works out to somewhere around 150 milligrams. So for me, 200 milligrams is a bit on the high side. I like to actually go probably like 150-ish, but that's me personally. I don't like to go too high with caffeine, but I know a lot of people, 200 milligrams of caffeine as a pre-workout stimulant is about average for most guys. I like to be a little bit conservative with it because it's easy to abuse caffeine, right? You get the short, excuse me. You get the short-term benefits of the caffeine, but it's easily you can easily go overboard and get to the point where it's not having the same impact anymore. So I like to be a little bit more conservative with it. So for me, 100, 150, that's usually my range. 200 would be on the high side for me. All right, moving on. Is cable exercises good for triceps good compared to too close grip? Is cable all right, I'm going to read between the lines and decipher your question here. I'm assuming you're asking, is a tricep cable pushdown compared to a close grip bench press? Right, now that's not what you wrote, but that's what I'm reading. They're two totally different exercises. Both are great exercises for the triceps, but it's a different move, right? It's like comparing a cable crossover to a bench press. I mean, both are great chest exercises, but they're two totally different exercises. The close grip bench press is more of a compound movement. The tricep press down is more of an isolation movement. Now, it's still technically a compound move. And in fact, for the greater scheme of things, there's truly no isolation exercise, because anytime you do an exercise, you're using more than one muscle group, even if it's just for balance and stabilization. But generally, when we refer to exercises from a weight training point of view, we refer to exercises that work the muscles across more than one joint as a compound movement. So in the case of a close grip bench press, it's the chest, the shoulders, the triceps. So the shoulder and the elbow joint are working. With the case of the push down, it's basically just the elbow joint that's working. So it would be considered an isolation move. So it's not that one is right, wrong, good or bad or anything like that. It's just two different exercises. If you want the best of both, then do both. Right? You could certainly either alternate them, like do the close grip bench one day and the push downs the next, or if you want to have a tricep workout, you can include both of them in the same workout. We have Buck. I'm assuming that's your name, B-U-K. Buck, Book. I don't know. If I'm mispronouncing it, do apologize, but I'm going to answer your question. Oh, Jesus Christ. Excuse the French. I thought that was a legit question, but you know what? For those of you reading this and joining in the chat right now, you know it's not. So I'm just going to block, delete. You are gone from the video chat, Mr. Buck, or whatever your name is. I really don't care because you're just a troll, so you are gone. I have a zero tolerance to comments like that. Delete, gone. Moving on. And thank you. Yeah, everyone's agreed to it. There we go. Yeah, some people are commenting on his comment. I'm going through this. I'm at my own pace answering the questions, obviously. So I mean, if somebody's down there typing crap, I didn't get to it in time. But anyway, he's been deleted, he's been removed, and he will no longer be joining the chats anymore. He's been blocked from the channel. I do apologize, but that's the nature of YouTube, right? You always attract shit disturbers and trolls. But thankfully, I don't get a lot of that, right? And I think it's just my personality and the way that I kind of present myself. I'm not out there trying to stir the pot. I'm just trying to deliver value. And I think that's the audience that I attract, is people who are actually looking for real value, not just looking for YouTube drama, if you will. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of channels out there that it's just drama. Like their whole content is just making videos about other people's videos and like bashing everyone. It's like, I couldn't care less. I'm just here to genuinely give fitness and nutrition advice to people who actually want it. All right, moving on. Tea with Lee. Almost down to the tea. One more question from Jose. When doing barbell curls or an easy bar curl, is a thumbless grip better than a regular grip? It really doesn't matter. It's personal preference at what feels the best for you and your hands and wrists. Certain exercises, I will use a thumbless grip because I just find it more comfortable. Certain exercises, I'll obviously use a thumb grip because I need it for the grip or it feels more comfortable. So it's personal preference. One is not right or wrong, good or bad in that situation, and there's no safety issue. So if you like a thumbless grip and you find that it works well for you, hey, use a thumbless grip, right? That's fine. But there are certain exercises where I do recommend using the thumb, even if it doesn't feel comfortable, i.e. a bench press. If you are doing a barbell bench press, use your thumb. Meaning thumb on the same side of the barbell. Do not use a false grip where the thumb is on the same side as the fingers, because if the thumb is on the same side of the fingers and that barbell starts to roll, right? So here I am, I'm bench pressing, and that barbell starts to roll. There's nothing to stop that thing from rolling down and crushing your ribs, right? That's the suicide grip, they refer to it. So you have to use your thumb. At least if your thumb's around there, the barbell can't roll, or it's very unlikely. I mean, I guess it could but it's a lot harder for the barbell to roll out of your hands when you're using a thumb grip. So for bench presses, use the thumb grip, even if it doesn't feel comfortable. If you want to use the thumbless grip, then use a Smith machine or some sort of chest press machine where the thing's physically not going to roll because the machine keeps it in place. That's fine. But you got to think safety first. So thumb grip for when that barbell could potentially roll, i.e. a bench press. But with stuff like a curl, a push down, a machine press, or anything like that, it's personal preference, whatever you prefer. If you want thumbless or the thumb, whatever. And sometimes there is, as silly as that is, like a lot of people think, well, who cares? What difference does it make? You will feel the difference. Like you will feel the difference just by moving your thumbs. Like even with the bench press, like some people find a thumbless grip actually easier on the shoulders. You know, like it's just that weird movement, and it's just the way the nerves and everything links up. Right? Sometimes it's so weird. Like you may actually find that is a more comfortable position for your body to move mechanically when the thumb is on the same side as the fingers. And other times you need it on the same, a thumb grip with the thumb wrapped around the barbell. So try it both ways if it's safe to do so, and use the one that you prefer. All right, moving on. Let's see who we got. Oh, we got a TS joined in, and thank you for the support. I'm going to answer your question now before we clue it up. He says, I do full body workouts, started without being able to push up and dip. Now I can do weighted dips and push-ups plus negative chin-ups. Wow, that's impressive. That is impressive. Good for you. And I love to hear that. Like you started off not even being able to do a push-up, and now you're doing weighted push-ups, and good for you. I mean, I tip my hat to you, and that just it goes to show the power of being consistent with the basics, right? It doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be mastering the basics. And I actually made a Facebook video about this the other day, discussing that. And when you master the basics and trust the process and let your body grow, I mean, you'll be amazed at how much progress you can actually make. But the kicker is you have to be consistent. Consistency is the most important thing. Consistency and standardizing. Like you can't optimize what's not standardized. And I get a kick out of it sometimes to see people like they come to me like, I haven't worked out in 6 months, but I need to have the perfect program customized to my body type with the exact macro split and exercises, sets and reps and everything laid out perfectly. I'm like, man, you don't need perfection. You just need anything at this stage of the game, right? Like, step one for the diet could be like, hey, stop drinking beer and start drinking more water. Like that, boom, that could be your diet change for the week. As far as food, like, hey, cut out the French fries and let's start eating more vegetables. Like, it could be as simple as that. And I get a kick out of it. Some people, like, they're not exercising, eating like crap, drinking, like everything is like bad in terms of lifestyle and nutrition choices and everything else. And then they're like, well, I need to have the perfect program before I get started, right? I need to have the perfect plan, the perfect split, the perfect this. And like, no, you don't need perfect at this stage. You just need good enough, but good enough consistently. And if you have good enough, but good enough consistently, you'll be amazed at the progress you can make with that. And I'm not saying that there's not room for improvement, but start small and build it up gradually. Don't start up here, because where's there to go if you're already starting up here, right? Start with the basics and build it up step by step. But again, good for you, and thanks for your support. Much appreciated. Where else are we? I'm going to answer a couple more questions. We're actually 1 hour into the chat, so I'm going to get ready and clue it up. Tea's almost gone. When the tea is gone, the chat's over. That's it. Louis or Lewis, I'm not sure which one. It's got a question. I'm assuming it's Louis. Quick question. I know rest is important, but what do you think of people that work physical jobs and really don't have any rest days and make gains? Yeah, that is a good question. And even though you don't have a rest day, like when you look at, unless you spend the entire day in bed or on the sofa, you typically don't have a rest day because you're moving. You're still moving and working your body. Now, I know some people are moving and working a lot more than others, but every day you are doing stuff. Like you're moving around, you're lifting, you're carrying, you're walking, you're bringing in groceries, whatever. You're doing stuff. So technically, unless you're bedridden, there is no true rest day. There's just less active days and more active days. Now, for people who have physically demanding jobs, carpenters, mechanics, and anyone doing physical labor work, obviously, you're going to be more active in your job. So you're probably not going to need to do as much activity in the gym, meaning like you're probably not going to need as much cardio. If you're physically on your feet all day long, then you're not going to need as much cardio as someone who's sitting on their duff at a computer desk all day long. So you may be able to scale back in that area. Also, you can look at like what muscle groups or what body parts get worked heavily at your job. If you're constantly bending over and picking up boxes, or you're using your back a lot for whatever, whether you're, lifting, carrying, I don't know, whatever it is you're doing, maybe you don't need to do as much for that in the gym. If you're a mechanic and you're always twisting wrenches and you're working your grip really heavy, maybe you don't need to do extra grip work in the gym because your grip is getting worked in the garage. Like you can kind of customize your workout based on your physical job that you're doing, and stuff that you're already doing a lot of just due to your work, then you don't need to focus on that when you're in the gym. And that way you can be a bit more efficient. So you focus on filling in the gaps, stuff that's not getting targeted with your job, and filling in the gaps. And then the things that are getting targeted with your job, you can kind of just do a scaled back version of that in your gym workouts, right? So hopefully that makes sense. I mean, you have to factor everything into the equation. And that's why I don't like these one size fits all cookie cutter approaches where like, hey, everybody got to do this and everybody got to do that. No, it's customized to the individual. And this is where we can really tweak it based on your situation and what it is that you're doing. Now, I mean, in your case, if you are working a physically demanding job, and I'm assuming you probably are, seeing you're asking the question, if you would like some help with like planning it out, feel free to email me. You can send me an email, leah@leehayward.com, or if we're friends on Facebook, you can message me there. Or if you're not friends with me on Facebook, then friend me up. Just do a search for Lee Hayward. You'll see my profile there, me doing a front double bicep pose, all right? Wearing a dad bod t-shirt. That's what it is. So you can friend me up on Facebook. and we can chat through there as well. But bottom line, reach out to me if you have any questions, and we can chat about it, and hopefully I'll help to point you in the right direction, give you some suggestions on how you can optimize your workouts to match your job so that you're not, so one, you're most efficient, and that you're also not being redundant and doing things that don't really need extra work. Because if you're probably already hitting it with your job, then you don't need to be double hitting it again in the gym. So we can make you more efficient, help to optimize your recovery and your growth and the progress. We got Jerry joining in. He says, "What's up? I'm doing good. Almost done my tea." Jerry, you're flattering me. He says, "You're looking shredded, or is it just the camera angle?" I'm actually pretty lean right now, lean for me. I've hit personal best low this morning. I was down to 183.6. And my goal now is to get down to 175 by June 26th. I actually, I talked about all that in the beginning of the chat. So if you're just joining in now, catch the replay, and I'll fill you in the replay. Randall's joining in. He says, "You mentioned that wide grip pull-ups, pull-downs, rows hit inner back, narrow grip hits the outer lats. How did you come to this info? Can you provide citation and a research paper article?" It's muscle activation, and where do you feel it? But to answer your question, where did I come up with that? I got that from trainers and coaches that I had in the past. And it's just the way that the muscles work. And what I want you to do is I want you to try it yourself. Right? Like, where do you feel it? When you use a narrower grip, like when I use, and it doesn't have to be ridiculously narrow, but when I use like fairly narrow, say like shoulder width, I really feel the outer lats contracting. When I do a pull down, a row, or whatever, like I can feel the outer lats. When I use a wider grip and I contract, I can feel my inner back working more. Now, don't get me wrong. The entire back is working regardless if you use wide, narrow, medium, or whatever, but you tend to emphasize a bit more depending on the grip. So if we're to put up a citation or a research paper, like the entire back is working, regardless if you're narrow, wide, medium, but you'll put a bit more emphasis depending on the grip. Now with the chest, it's the opposite. When you go wider, you tend to place more of the emphasis on the outer chest, even though the entire chest is still working. When you go closer, you tend to place more of the emphasis on the inner chest, even though the entire chest is still working. So if there's certain areas that you want to focus more on, like you feel like I'd want a bit more width, then maybe you want to make sure to include some medium or narrow grip rowing exercises. If you want more lower lats, then you want to use more underhand grip, so you activate that lower lat a bit more. But you have to realize, regardless of the grip, you're still working the entire muscle. Like you can't truly work a muscle in isolation. You can't. Like anytime you row, it's not just the back, you know, or the lats. I mean, you're working your lats, you're working your traps, you're working your rhomboids, you're working your spinal erectors, you're working your biceps, you're working your everything. Like it's all coming in. Like you just can't isolate a muscle. So it's just certain moves, you'll probably feel a deeper contraction in certain parts of the muscle than others. That's it. But it's not like one is right, wrong, good, or bad, or anything like that. So, yeah, hopefully that answers your question. But do I have a research paper to back that up? No, I don't have a research paper. I just have, experience. Now, in your case, if you find that it's the opposite, you find, hey, if I do wider grip, I feel my outer lats work more. And if I do narrow grip, I find my inner back works more, then do it. Like, you don't need a research paper. Listen to your body. Like, you know your body better than some university study done on half a dozen freshmen who just started working out. Like, seriously, if you find wide grip pull downs really work your outer back and narrow grip rows really hit your inner back, then that's great. That's your research right there, right? Like, listen to your own body and become in tune with it. Because just because an exercise works for me or works for John or works for Bill doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And just because an exercise works for you doesn't mean that it's going to work for me or that I prefer it. Like, we see sometimes like people say, oh, I love barbell bench presses. And someone else says, I hate barbell bench presses. That's fine. Like, if you don't like barbell bench presses, then do something else. Use dumbbells, do push-ups, use chest press machine. Like, listen to your body and do what works the best for you. And that's going to vary because we all have, even though we all got the same structure, 2 arms and 2 legs and a torso, and we're pretty close, We all have different leverages. You know, some people are a bit taller, shorter, stockier, fatter, thinner, whatever. And certain moves may work better than others. We all have different ranges of motion and mobility. So if you find a certain exercise or exercise variation works a bit better for you and a certain one doesn't, then do the one that works better for you. You don't need a research paper to tell you that. Like, learn to listen to your body and evaluate, like, try different exercises. And if there's certain ones, you know, like, I really don't like that one, but I really like that one, then do the one that you really like. Like that's more powerful than a research paper. It really is. I mean, it takes a while to get to that level of intuition, if you will, but with practice and with just consistency and just trying different things, you'll come to learn your body, and you'll learn what works the best for you based on your situation. Moving on. Jerry says he smokes hookah. Does it affect muscles? It's not helping. Let's put it that way. Can you build muscle despite the fact that you smoke? Yes, there are bodybuilders who smoke, and they still make progress. But look at it this way: it's not helping the process, right? So it's there's sometimes people succeed despite of something, not because of something. And this is something you need to really look at, because every now and then you may see someone doing some crazy stuff or having some bad habits, but they're still getting progress. You know, they may be making progress despite it, not because of it. So in the case of smoking, whatever it is, whether it's smoking weed, smoking cigarettes, smoking hookah, smoking a cigar, smoking a pipe, whatever you're smoking, it's not helping. Like there's no benefits to smoking, right? Like, let's just be totally blunt and honest. There's no benefits. Is it hindering you? I personally think it is. I mean, I know people who smoke personally, and I don't see any health benefits coming about it. Like, they usually have less cardiovascular fitness. They're loading their body up with toxins, and it takes its toll. I mean, you don't notice it right away, but you notice it after a while. Like, you see someone who's been smoking for 50 years. I mean, they look at, if they live to be 50 years, like, I've got some relatives. I mean, I know they're not watching this video, so I can talk about them, who are long-term smokers. Some have even been diagnosed with cancer, right? But you can see it. Like, you see someone who's been smoking for years. I mean, like, they just look aged. Like, their face is wrinkled. Their skin just got just this dull, wrinkly look to it. I mean, it's rotting you from the inside out. It really is. And I mean, it's not apparent right away. Like, I mean, smoking one cigarette or one is not going to kill you or anything like that. It takes time, but if you do it over time, yeah, it's going to take its toll. Same with drinking alcohol. Like, there's nothing in alcohol that's helping your muscle growth. Ain't happening. Is it detracting from it? Yeah, slowly it is. And depending on how much you do it and for how long you do it, and of course your own individual genetic tolerances, that plays a big role as well. Like, ironically, there's always exceptions to the rule. Like, you'll see someone who, I smoked every day since I was a kid and I lived to be 98 years old. And then someone else dies of cancer at 48. Like, there's always going to be genetic variations, and you can't really look at that as like the exceptions to the rule. But look at the general trend. People who smoke tend to not be as healthy as people who are non-smokers. So just use that. And most athletes and people who are fit and looking after their health and fitness tend not to smoke, right? Most world-class athletes, world-class bodybuilders, fitness competitors, whatever, most of them don't smoke. Now, there are a few exceptions. Don't get me wrong, there are a few exceptions, but generally speaking, they don't. So, but you have to look at it. What's the best for you? I mean, if you really get a lot of pleasure out of smoking and you enjoy it, and you're like, I'm okay with if it shortens my lifespan a bit because I get the pleasure from it, then, who might argue with you? All right. Let's see what we got here. I'm going to get ready and clue it up, guys, because I actually want to get a workout in, and the gym closes early tonight. So I'm going to get ready and clue it up. Only got another mouthful of tea. But I'm just going to scroll through the chat real quick, see if there's any last final questions that I want to address before we clue it up. We've got L joining in from California, Simi Valley. I'm not sure. Never been there. Says, love the show and all your expertise. Much appreciated. Glad you enjoy it. And thanks for tuning in. Sherry R joining in. How do you motivate yourself for home lifts? It ain't easy. I'm much more motivated to work out at the gym, but you can still make it work at home. That's a long question. Not that I'm trying to ignore you, but I'm just scrolling through here now because I'm getting ready to clue this up. 10 plus strength belt for squats and press. Okay. Any tips on recovering from L5 bulging disc? That's can't see. I'm looking for a quick closing question here because some of these are I know if I get talking about it, I'll be here for 10 minutes. Okay, some people are talking about our friend who got banned and deleted from the channel. Yes, I have zero tolerance for negative comments, right? Like that. So, I mean, it's just going to clue it up. He is gone, never to be back again. Let's see. I'm going to try this. All right, got a couple questions about working out from home, so I'm going to address that. All right. I want to work out more, but it's difficult at home. I'm working on it and making a change, but there's not healthy food at my house. What should I do? I'm also having a binging problem, which I'm working at. Okay. First off, if you have any questions or you want to discuss stuff like this, feel free to reach out to me. You can email me and we can have a proper, offline, well, it's technically still online, but private conversation about your situation. So if you want to discuss, if you mentioned binge eating and stuff like that and motivation issues, feel free to reach out to me. And if I can help you, I will. If not, I'll try and point you in the right direction to somebody who can. But working out from home, all right, we're going to touch on that because a few people mentioned that in the comments there. Can you work out from home and make progress? Absolutely. Absolutely. You can work out anywhere and make progress. And for my first 8 years of training, I worked out in my basement home gym with homemade gym equipment. Now, it was a pretty darn good home gym, and I had access to all the basic stuff that I needed. But I trained there for 8 years, and I loved it. Made great gains. Did 3 bodybuilding shows. Trained out of my basement home gym, and it was perfect because I was a student. There was no gyms in my local area at the time, and the closest gym was like a half-hour drive away. So, it wasn't practical for me to be going to a gym. So I had the gym at home, used it, made great progress, and thoroughly loved it. Then I joined a commercial gym. And then I got the taste of real equipment and the environment and the energy of a commercial gym. And my little home gym felt puny in comparison, and I didn't want to go back. So this is where it was for me. Like, I was self-motivated. Still am self-motivated. But I mean, I was self-motivated from an early age because I was, wanted to work out, wanted to get results, and and I made it work. But then once I started going to the commercial gym and I started using, proper machines and machines that were smooth and like just the quality of the equipment, like you look at home gym quality equipment versus commercial grade equipment, it's chalk and cheese, right? It's yes, it looks the same, but it doesn't feel the same, right? It's like driving a K car and a Cadillac, right? It looks the same. Both of them are cars, but they don't feel the same. And once I got into that commercial gym and just the energy and the environment and being around other people who are working out and all that, now to go back to a home gym, it's just like, it feels like such a letdown. So when we went through COVID lockdown and I had to work out from home again, I mean, yes, I still made progress. I still worked out from home, but I didn't have the same oomph as far as going to the gym. And I mean, so I personally love going to the gym. And if you can, I recommend go to the gym. I think you'll make better gains at the gym versus working out at home. I really do. Now, with that being said, if you only have access to a home gym, then make the best of it. Make the best of it. And quite honestly, exercise, like weight is weight. And, stimulation to the muscle is stimulation. Like if you push yourself and you rep out to failure at home versus repping out to failure at the gym, I think you're still repping out to failure. You're still putting stress and demands on the muscle, and your body's going to respond regardless. But it's just a mental block. And one of the things that I find is I enjoy that environment, that energy at the commercial gym that I don't get at home. So when you're at home, you have to be a bit more self-motivated. And one of the things that I find, this is a little strategy that you can implement. I find it more motivating to do shorter, more frequent workouts when I'm home than I do at the gym. Like when I'm at the gym, like an hour-long workout just flies by. An hour seems like nothing. But when I'm at home, like an hour drags on. So instead of trying to do like a 2-hour workout at home, I might break it up and do little mini workouts throughout the day. And I find that actually helps with my motivation sometimes to do more frequent workouts versus the big, long marathon workout that I sometimes do when I'm at the commercial gym. So you might want to try that. Just break up your body parts. Like let's just say you're doing your total body workout. Maybe you want to do half of it in the morning and half of it in the evening. That may work better for you. Or little short bursts, 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, and break it up over the course of the day. And it really doesn't matter in the greater scheme of things as long as you get it done. Like the muscles don't have clocks, right? Your muscles don't know what time it is, or if you did all your workout in one go, if you're broken up over the course of the day, like all they respond to is stress, recovery, and growth. Like that's it. Stress, breaking down the muscle, then it needs to rest, recover, and grow. That's it. Like the muscles don't care about any other variable. As long as that process is happening, you're stressing and breaking down the muscle, you let it rest, recover, and grow, the process is going to happen, right? So that's something that I would do during past COVID lockdown. I would do more frequent mini workouts because I found it easier to just say, hey, I'm just going to go in there and do a little 20-minute blast, like pump up for 20 minutes, focus on, a few exercises. And then maybe later in the day, I'm going to go in there for another 20 minutes, focus on another few exercises. And I found that those keeping it short actually helped my motivation versus thinking, hey, I got to go down in my basement for the next hour or more. And it just made it feel like too long and too boring. So that was a strategy that worked for me. I mean, it may help you guys if you're working out at home to do something like that. So anyway, I'm going to get ready to clue it up because like I said, I want to get to the gym before they close. They're closing literally like in 2 hours or less than 2 hours. Holy shit, I got to go. So I got to get ready, get my gym bag packed and out the door and head to the gym and hopefully get in an hour plus workout. So hopefully you enjoyed the video chat. I'll have the replay and the timestamps posted up afterwards. And if you do have any questions, you want to reach out, if you got any, you want to discuss training, nutrition, or anything that we covered in today's chat, you want to elaborate on it more, feel free to reach out to me. You can friend me up on Facebook and we can chat there, or you can send me an email and we can have a chat through email. And again, all my contact information is down in the description of this video. So open that up and blah, blah, blah. We can chat. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and if you have any questions, reach out to me, and make sure to stay tuned for the next one, because next week, same time, same place, I'll be doing another live video chat. Have yourself a good one. Over and out.